I am very, very, very mad at my office mates because I was talking about my new skateboard and they don't believe that I skateboard and they've been making fun of me. And now I'm feeling like really self conscious. And I don't know, like I might just, it's going to take me a little longer to grade your papers because I got to go to the corner and cry for a little bit. Anyway, how about my Rocco's Modern Life shirt? Represent. Isn't it great? I'm so thrown off my game right now. Like, I skate. I'm gnarly. I shred. I think I'm getting old. Okay, focus. All right, so gonna have kind of a quick one today. So we've been talking about expository writing. We've been talking about this coming piece, which is a how-to piece, right? We're going to narrate through the process of basically how to do something. Now, let's get a couple of things out of the way first. One, this is going to be a longer piece. When I say this, don't freak out. This one, I want 6 pages. So you need to kind of take that into mind when you start thinking about what it is you're going to narrate through, right? Because you want to make sure that you can get 6 pages of material out of this. That's important. So, but one of the things that you'll see is depending upon your topic, getting 6 pages of material is probably not going to be as difficult as you think it is for several reasons. One, I had a student this morning talking about wanting to write some type of guide on how to be successful in business. And I was like, well, the actual problem with that is that you're going to have some issues with how broad it is. It's not enough to simply just talk about business. I mean, that's how do you even remotely begin to navigate those waters? What you might want to do is do a specific business, right? So how would you be successful in like one of the things my buddy's been doing lately is a car detailing service he's put together. How do you do that successfully? How do you put together a landscaping company? The example I used this morning, and I was actually kind of surprised about this. I said, if you were to write a guide about how to paint your nails, do you really think you'd be able to get 6 pages out of that? And one of my students in the front was like, yeah, I could totally get 6 pages out of that. So, I was thinking you guys need to be really careful about making sure you do something that has enough detail in it to fill up those pages. But when I use the example of painting nails, some of my students were like, there's more than enough material to fill 6 pages of material there. So this is the first time I've done this with the 1101 group. Normally, it's just something I do with the technical writing group, but I'm anxious to see what kind of results we come up with. Now, the main thing I want to cover today is a concept called info mapping. Now, I need to get you guys some examples of info mapping. I think that'll help the other group too. But let me briefly describe what info mapping is so that you guys can start kind of getting an idea of how this is going to look. One of the things I've constantly told you guys as I grade your papers is I've been hounding you about your paragraphs, right? Your paragraph development, your organization amongst your paragraphs, and I've constantly hammered into you 10 sentences for a developed paragraph. Well, when it comes to technical writing, when it comes to exposition, big, thick paragraphs are not really what we're going after now. When it comes to technical writing, we want to resist the urge to put together a ton of dense, sentences. We actually want to avoid the big developed paragraph. Good technical writing is extremely navigable and accessible. Now, that's a funky word I'm probably kind of sort of making up right now, but navigable means that I can get to this document and I can go to the section that I need very, very quickly. I don't have to crawl around in this piece very much. I can get to the point that I need to reference and just get right to that point, right? So I need to be able to move around within it relatively quickly. Paragraphs do not lend themselves out to that type of thing. So what we're going to need to do is something called info mapping. Info mapping is a very different way of structuring and developing a document as opposed to when you sit down with a writing assignment in English 1101 class, you're like, I'm going to write about my feelings for 20 minutes, right? Now, what we're doing is we're primarily organizing our writing in a way that we use things like bullets, numbers, sections, it needs to look a lot more like an outline as opposed to that classical essay you guys have been working on. And most of what we have been working on has been following that kind of essay format. As we write in those, we have a tendency to just kind of sort of naturally drift from one topic to the next. And that causes a lot of students to wander in their writing. This needs to be hyper focused, moving from one very clearly marked section to another where the logic behind your movement within the writing is shown. Now, good news and bad news. Bad news. This is going to be writing that's a lot more streamlined and simple, right? It's not going to have a lot of that fluff in it that we usually expect when we're filling up lots and lots of pages. The good news, it is a lot easier to fill up pages when you're using info mapping because it does primarily flow in the way that an outline does. So you don't have to do those thick paragraphs. You are going to need to think very carefully about all of the sections and the steps you're going to take as you do this how-to. One of the other suggestions I gave the students this morning was in writing like this, it becomes very, very important to think visually. So one of my favorite examples of this is like how to change your oil. And in the spirit of that specificity, it would be like how to change the oil in a Pontiac Neon, right? God, wasn't the car? I had a Pontiac Neon. That thing was a piece of garbage. I loved it, but it was garbage. The only time my windshield ever froze on the inside of the car. I actually had to get in and wipe the inside, the ice from out of the inside. That was a fun morning, as you can imagine. Now, in any case, as you think about trying to explain to someone, I know we're not all, automotive people, but just kind of consider this for a moment. If you're trying to tell people how to change the oil in a car, you are almost going to have images associated with that rather than putting everything out in text. You're going to need to be able to go to whatever bolts, whatever things you need to loosen to get the oil in the paint. I don't really know much about this crap, but I'm sure you guys can see how you would need to navigate the engine block, right? All those things you're going to need to. My camera's out of focus again, and it is driving me nuts. How do I fix that? All of this stuff, we would have to have some type of visual in order to help the reader move around that area. So visuals become extremely useful in this regard as well. You're going to have some type of visual integration as you're putting this how-to together. Now, the other thing we talked about this morning, which was kind of interesting, was there are ways to do visuals incorrectly. There are ways that visuals can completely work against you when you're writing something like this. One of the first ones that came to mind for me was having visuals that are disconnected from the area of the text where you're talking about it. So if you're talking about, let me go into a different one rather than the car or the nails. I paint these stupid little war game miniatures. That's the photo in the thumbnail. I want to bring some. Oh, you know what? I have one. He's not painted, but I get these little model kits, right? And this is, let's see if I can get it to focus in. Let me bring him in close. Come on, you can do it. No, don't look at me. Look at the miniature. Come on. He's trying to focus. Anyway, this is like a weird soldier who's got all sorts of weird weapons and stuff on him. He's a death guard, right? I not only put these things together and glue them, I paint them as well. The photo for the thumbnail is them painted. And I've been desperately wanting to learn to paint them better than I do. I'm not very good at it, and that's okay. I still enjoy it. But I went to a store recently. I promise I'm going somewhere with this. I went to a store in Savannah recently that had a whole bunch of those Warhammer miniatures, and the paint job was just shockingly good. Like, I want to get better at this. So imagine for a moment that you're talking about particular types of paint brushes. Are you just going to describe these brushes? Like how the fine point comes to a certain head, or how it fans out, or you're probably going to have to take a picture of the damn brush, right? It's a lot easier than trying to explain these very minute details. or the way a certain brush stroke goes. Do you want to go with the grain on something, or do you want to go against it? Do you spray paint it a certain way? Do you all these things lend themselves to the occasional picture or image to reinforce what you're talking about, right? So ways you can do this incorrectly. I like to kind of sometimes talk about ways things go wrong, as opposed to always just talking about what can go right. Like, take this, for instance. I've got this new lamp, and it is obviously something I should not have on when I'm recording a video, because it's just like making me look like I'm Jesus. Every once in a while, just, no, but, oh. It has been a couple of days. So in any case, what goes wrong when you're integrating images into a document? Having your images far away from the section where you're talking about those images. Loading in a ton of images on one section of the paper, and you have to go and kind of like do a weird matching where you're like trying to reference what those images actually connect to. You having too many images so that it actually bogs down the reading, or very likely in this particular project, you may not have enough. There's a lot of ways to do this wrong, which we're going to, delve into more as we crawl along through this. In any case, the main point today is that our writing that we're going to do for this project is going to do something fundamentally different than what we've been doing before. It's going to move faster. We'll cover pages quicker, but there's a lot that can go wrong here. Mainly, the thing you want to keep in mind is keeping this how-to document readable and accessible and easily navigated, as you need to jump around to different parts of it. That's all extremely important. So for today, what I want you guys to do, I'm going to create the forum for you, and this is going to be the how-to article forum. I want you to go in and talk and let us know, what type of how-to do you think you are going to cover? Give me some ideas. Later this week, I have a new assignment that I'm going to give you involving the research portion of this. So the main thing you need to do right now is to really stop and think about what it is you want to explain, what how-to you want to write, and just get some ideas out there. Let's see what you come up with. I think this lamp is heating up my office, so I'm going to have to make some decisions here shortly. Anyway, hope you guys are having an awesome day, and I'm going to go home and get my skateboard and ride it around the parking lot Why are they so mean to me? It's not fair.